Hey there. Now we're going to speak to Brenda's son, Jacob, and see what his point of view was and what his experience was knowing that his mom was going through all of this. So, Jacob, how did you find out that your mom was in grave danger? So dramatic, right?
Well,
Well,
it wasn't what he found. Go
Mhm.
ahead.
I actually found out first, but I didn't know she was in grave danger. So I'm sure you heard the story multiple times about how she was found and that I was the one that actually stumbled upon her. So I'll go into a little bit of detail. It's hard to remember that exact day. I think we were on break. Asia break is very long. So
Mhm.
January 8th, I think I was in my room doing normal 18-year-old things, probably on my computer, talking to my friend. I don't know. Who knows what I was
Yeah,
doing? Do
totally. I was like,
not
I don't
remember.
know.
I
Totally.
actually
No.
have no clue what I was doing.
This is
Okay.
in the house. We know
I
that
was
You
in
were
the
in the
house.
house.
I was
Okay.
the only one in the house with my mom at the time. And I remember I went to go take a shower and I hadn't heard from my mom. We would go during the break. We would go the whole day without talking to each other till dinner. It was
Hmm.
very normal. I know she was resting a lot because of her headaches and she wanted to be in the dark and she didn't want to talk to people.
Hmm.
So I was doing my own thing. I went to go shower. I was just doing my own thing and I got a call from my dad to go and check on her because he hadn't heard from her. I think she was supposed to go pick up my brother from school or from some event or play date or was
From
it
school.
school? So in my towel, I was like, just in my towel, I walked downstairs and the way that the house is laid out, as you walk down the stairs, you could see the living room is visible and my mom was on the ground. Now,
God.
the first instinct I had was, oh, she's just lying. Sometimes she goes on the ground to change her position. I actually go into the kitchen and my mom had baked some cookies. I don't know if you remember this. And I actually went and got a cookie and ate the cookie. I swear.
Hold on, Mom. I need a break.
So I
Wow.
went and they were very good.
I have a bug.
Exactly. So it was very dark in the house that day and I went and got a cookie and I have my cookie in my hands and I'm in my towel and I go to check it on my mom and Mom, you okay? And I start to hear it was like mumbling. She wasn't able to make her words out. I got a little bit closer and that's when I saw the vomit on the ground. Sorry, Mom. I
Oh,
don't mean to
God.
be, I'm sure this has all been talked about already,
Yeah,
but
we've talked about it.
so I don't want to be too graphic, but there was signs that something was wrong. So
Mhm.
I immediately go to her feet and I flip her upright. I check her mouth to make sure she wasn't choking. And I put her head to the side or something like that to make sure there was no vomit. She was all good, but she was mumbling words to me.
Okay.
Couldn't make out any of the words, if you were
Mhm.
wondering. It was just noises. So I call my dad and I tell him what's going on. And he tells me that he's going to be home very soon. He was on the way home.
Mhm.
So I'm just talking to her. I'm trying to keep her with me. I have no clue what's happening. I don't
Right.
know the signs of stroke.
Right.
It was very new to me. I thought she was just in a lot of pain or just like her head was I don't know what was going on. So after that, it's a little hard to remember. My dad gets home. He sees this situation's very serious and he immediately calls the ambulance with me next to him. My brother goes upstairs right away. He's not a part of this. It was a little bit too graphic for him and the paramedics come and I'm there the whole time. I'm next to my dad and they're dealing with her. They do some small tests
Were
and
you
they
still in your
immediately
towel?
I was just gonna ask, you
Yeah.
still in your towel?
I don't think so. I think when dad got home, he told me to go get changed.
Okay,
Or
okay,
Put something.
until he got home, I was in my towel. I had not gotten changed. I
okay.
didn't think you would mind, Mom.
No.
It
Anything
was
but
very weird. And I
Yeah, I'm
still didn't
sure.
think anything was wrong, by the way, even when the paramedics got there, because Abby said she had already been to the hospital several times. I grew up, I remember one vivid memory on Ilan Ramon, which was our old house. I don't know how old I was. I must have been 10 years old, no older. And my mom would pass out. She would pass out randomly on the ground. And at 10 years old, and I would lift her legs up. And I was very accustomed to it. So this is not something that was new to me. It didn't scare me. Fast forward to when she's about to go in the ambulance. Dad tells me to just stay put. So I stay at home. He doesn't take me with him. And it was a very quiet night that night. Abby wasn't there. My brother was in his room. I took care of him. That's the last thing my dad told me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. We went to bed that late. That night was normal. He didn't call me once. I remember watching the podcast episode you did with my dad. I learned a lot about that night. Actually, on that episode, he never told me how serious it was that night. So I go to sleep normal. It's though I'm expecting them to be home in the morning and everything would be the same as it was. I wake up to my aunt, Jenny, Abby was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
She'd come to the house and she was like, you need to come to the hospital. or some version of that. And okay, I didn't question it. I got in my coat, put my pants on. I didn't go in a towel.
Thank goodness.
I just left him yourself.
Now, at this point, I just want to stop you right there. Isaac, what was the conversation with him? Was he like you? It's another one of mom's headaches, and he wasn't that concerned?
We didn't tell him anything. At least I didn't
No.
tell him anything, and I was given pretty strict instructions to not tell him a lot. He was
Yeah.
very young. He was 13 years old,
Right.
and he's not as much now, but he was very sensitive back then. So we wanted to be gentle and
Right.
make sure he was eased into it.
Mm-hmm.
That was ultimately my dad's call. I didn't question it. He knew what to do. I was following his lead. So Isaac wasn't really involved. I'm sure you'll hear a little bit more from Isaac's perspective from the younger child, now
Right.
an adult. But back to what I was saying about the day I saw my mom post-stroke.
Yeah.
She had already gone to the Jewish general. You have to correct me, Mom, if I'm wrong. Then you went to the neuro afterwards. She had already had a surgery. I think, I don't know what time in the morning this was, maybe 11 in the morning. I head over to the Montreal Neuro, the McGill Neuro, and this was probably the hardest part of her stroke. One of the hardest parts was I walk in to the ICU with my aunt, and there was a very small closet, I want to call it. I had people I hadn't seen in so long sitting in that closet. I had my grandfather from New York, my grandmother, my aunts, uncles.
Right.
I've had family, friends all stuffed into that closet, and they were all sitting in there. And I had no idea what was happening. And I was like, why is everything okay? And then all of a sudden, there was a big gurney that my mom was on, came out of one of the rooms in the ICU, and she was headed to surgery. This was
Oh
all
my
happening
God.
very fast. So I'm explaining it
Right.
fast, but this is how it was. It was all within
Wow.
5 minutes. And my dad's there and he's like, kiss your mom. So I go right next to the doctors and I give her a kiss on the cheek and she was gone. And that was it. I didn't see her
Oh
until
my
after
goodness.
surgery. I had no idea that could have been the last time I could have seen her or touched her.
Oh my goodness.
For me, I didn't really know. So it wasn't as hard then as it is now thinking about it or after the fact. After that, it's very much a blur. That's my last
Right.
vivid memory after the stroke had just happened. Then there's bits and pieces that happened. I only have one other memory in the ICU, but I can get into that if you want to ask a question about
Yeah.
that. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
absolutely. What was it like? So after surgery, was it the same day, or did you go back to the hospital when you saw her the next time after surgery?
I think we all stayed in the hospital for quite a while. And I think we were planning, I was 17 years old at the time, and we were planning on going to Toronto for my birthday. Mom had planned a trip.
Wow.
So I was talking like that time we were waiting, I was talking to my dad about it and to my aunt and uncles about it. They all wanted to take me on this trip to Toronto. What was it, Mom? Do you remember what it was for? We were going to see the Raptors.
Probably it sounds
It was supposed to be a nice trip, and I think they were trying to convince me to go. Don't let this stop your life. And
Oh my gosh. And what were you like?
I was like, I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about. Sorry for saying that word, but I immediately canceled that trip. I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to Toronto
Mhm.
now. So that I remember talking about that a little bit. And then I really don't remember at all. I think I went home because there was a lot of
Mhm.
people there,
Mhm.
and she had more than enough people in the room with her.
Mhm.
Specifically, my dad was there, her sisters were there, Jenny was there. I remember Chucky being there and Coop being there. I don't know if you guys have talked about Chucky and Coop at all on the
Mm-mm.
podcast, but those
Oh,
are
okay.
my dad's friends. Now mom's
Okay.
friends too.
they weren't there. They were things they were there ready to dance, but out there.
Exactly. Yeah. Dad needed a lot of help,
Yeah.
and I knew that if anyone needed help, it was my dad at the time.
Mhm.
I'm trying to keep it all in
That makes
chronological
sense.
order. It's hard for me to remember because
Right.
I haven't actually voiced my side of it in a very long time. So it's hard to remember everything in order.
It must be like trying to explain a nightmare or a dream. Things are happening and it seems like the same time, but have been, and no, I understand completely.
That's pretty much what the day was like. That's what I remember from the day. And then I obviously remember her time in ICU. And then when she was in, I don't know if it was considered ICU, but she was in another room that they moved her to for a while, for maybe a month. I remember she spent her birthday in there, and my birthday and my dad's birthday. We all have very close birthdays.
Yeah.
So I remember doing them in that room. and then eventually going to rehab and whatnot.
Wow. I'm sure it was tough. But you had time with Abby driving her around. So was that a little bit of connection time for you two to process things?
Well,
I'm guessing.
we didn't talk about it. When it
No.
was happening, we didn't talk about it with anybody. I remember there was one time when our cousin Emily was driving us home from visiting mom in rehab, and she was being so sweet, really trying to be there for us. We were just silent the whole time. And we gab when we're with her normally, and it was just couldn't talk about it with anyone. We couldn't talk about it with each other.
Wow.
And I feel like, I don't know, excuse me, Jacob, if this is too much, and if anything, it can get cut. But I remember we fought a little bit about it because Jacob was having a hard time with the whole thing. Everyone obviously was having a hard time, but I snapped at him at one point and was like, you need to visit her more. This is ridiculous. You're not going to the hospital enough, which was really hard of me. But I think, I don't know what I was saying or doing. I was just flashing out because the whole thing was just like
Right.
a lot.
Scary.
I think that's an important point for Ashab, though, because I am a year and a half younger than her. It was a little less mature. I don't mind talking about it, but I did go through some major struggles post-stroke with my mom. I had dropped out of my program maybe 2 weeks later. It started by me dropping one class, and then I was like, you know what? I showed up to my first 2 classes of school. I was in mechanical engineering, and they were long, grueling days, and I just couldn't stop thinking about my mom in the hospital and how I couldn't just be in class. Everyone kept telling me to move on, don't stop, keep living your life, but
Right.
I couldn't do that. So I was actually not in school for the rest of that year until the following fall. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I had my own ways of coping with that, but having all that time in your hands, having all that time to think, you develop anxiety because you're just living with
Right.
your own thoughts. And I was definitely feeling a little bit depressed at the time as well. But this fight that Abby's talking about, I know exactly what it was about. I think I was playing video games with my friend Matt, who I'm still very good friends with. And I was yelling really loud.
Oh,
She
yeah.
watches it. Hi, Matt. And Abby was walking home from school and she heard me from outside the house. And this is
Yelling
what
at the video game.
just yelling in general. I don't know if I was yelling at
Mhm.
him or I might have been yelling at something else. And she whips open my door and says that to me. What are you doing? You're doing this is like, and I
Mhm.
lose it on her because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm fine. This was my way of coping with the events.
Yeah.
So I took my headphones off. I threw them at her, shattered them into pieces, and I physically grabbed Abby and locked her in her own bathroom.
Oh my
Do you
God,
remember
I
this,
forgot.
Abby?
You forgot
And
about that?
this was, and I felt horrible afterward because it took so much in me to not touch her because I should never be touching anybody. And I've
Right.
had
But
instances of getting really angry and putting my hands on Abby because, no offense to her, she was a little bit of a,
I was bitchy.
she was tough sometimes growing up, and I didn't have the maturity to deal with it. So I would lash out physically sometimes. And that was the last time it's ever happened. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen since then.
Right.
My dad had to come home from the hospital to make me feel better because I was crying in my room because I felt so bad about touching
Oh,
Abby.
wow. Wow.
And I haven't touched her since, I don't think,
Did
that I
you?
remember. And she apologized too for what she said. And that
Right.
was
Well, you were both not in your right state of mind, I'm
for
sure.
sure not. No.
Right. And then were you getting any sort of support from anybody? So you said you didn't talk about it at all?
I didn't tell any of my friends about what happened or anybody I knew for at least 2 weeks. It took me 2 weeks until I told the first person. It took me a couple months to tell some people. But it's actually when I met my girlfriend, who I'm still with, I started talking to her. We started talking. She lives in Toronto, and I had started talking to her through a mutual friend on Instagram. I had reached out. I was really desperate to talk to people, so I was just messaging people, and I had started talking to her. This was a bit after my birthday, so February, and I was talking to her every single day for
Right.
hours and hours and hours. She was the only one I really talked to, and she really helped me get through that period of
Yeah.
time.
Thank goodness you had.
And I started to get a lot better. I went back to school afterwards,
That's amazing.
and she really gave me the motivation to then keep going. And now I'm in university finishing that degree that I started in CJEP. So if it wasn't for her, I don't know where I would be right now, but she was a huge reason why I rallied and got
Yeah.
back on the horse. I'm sure it would have happened at some point, but it happened a lot sooner than I thought it would.
Well, thank goodness. Wow, and you're still with her. And
Yeah.
she was great enough to listen while you just poured out, I'm sure, all your anxiety and stuff. So I think everybody needs that. I'm sure that's a great message for other kids going through something like that. Even though it's difficult, try to reach out to somebody that you're comfortable with and will listen and just help you process. You don't have to tell them everything, but process those big feelings. And what do you do now? I'm sure you guys were like, what the heck are we supposed to do? Your mom did so much. Can't imagine. I don't have any children. Thank God.
Oh,
Not that I don't like children. I'm very close to my nieces and nephews, and I've always worked with kids. I love kids, but to have kids see me go through that, it was hard enough. Niece and nephew were teenagers, but I can't imagine having children to go through that. So I commend you both. Looks like you came back on the other side doing beautifully and strong. I'm sure you're there for your mom as much as you can. I mean, that's all anyone can ask for. You made it through. Do you have anything to commend to somebody through it, Jacob? A child your age at like,
Well, I would say at like 18. Let's like say from when I dealt with it. The I wish I did was not withhold it. I withheld it way too long, and it just made it worse. It was.
Yeah.
I think it's just because I'm a pretty reserved person. I don't
Mm.
open to people very easily. It usually takes me a while, unless I'm very comfortable with the person. It takes me a while to tell them things. But even in this circumstance, I have friends who I was friends with for at least 15 years, like my whole life, and I wasn't telling them. Why? I couldn't tell you because that was a
Right.
while ago. But I would say, yeah, just don't be afraid to have people help you out, accept help, and just support.
easier
Yeah.
said than done, but
Way
Right.
easier said than done.
Right. That's what I was going to say about everyone telling you to go on that trip to Toronto. Easier said than done. Like, how do you expect me
Right,
to leave
right.
my mom's side right now?
Yeah, I
Right,
don't know.
right.
I think they were just trying to get my mind off of it. I don't know.
Just we're trying to guard you,
Yeah.
as from